to another edition of the Stogie Review video review. I am Walt White, back once again from my being sidelined from allergies and sinus problems. Feeling pretty good today, so I'm not quite up to speed to do a full-blown review, but feeling quite well enough to do short ashes. So I'm taking a cigar that I've had before, which is the Oliva Serie Liga Especial. This is a Bellicoso size, which actually I don't think I've ever had before. Just torpedoes and some of the larger formats. I think this is my first Bellicoso actually, so should be quite interesting. Looking at the cigar, looks very well constructed. Nice even color from head to foot. The seam that spirals down the cigar is nice and crisp. The cap it looks to be applied beautifully. Just everything about the cigar looks good. It's really difficult to give it a squeeze with only one hand. I'm holding the flip cam at arm's length, which makes doing things like this kind of difficult. But it feels pretty good. I'm not finding any spongy spots. So, and it's got a very aromatic aroma to it. Very earthy. It's got sort of like a compost mulch aroma to it. So with that said, I'm going to cut my cigar. I'm going to get it lit. I'll be right back, and we'll get this short ashes kicked off and take a look at the Oliva Serie Liga Especial. And this time I'll try not to move around so much. Maybe I won't make you motion sick. So sit tight. Alright, well, I am back. I got my cigar cut and lit. And the draw is fantastic. Excuse me. It figures I turn the camera on and I get a little something in my throat and having difficulties talking, but otherwise I'm feeling pretty good. Sinuses are crystal clear. The draw is surprisingly well. The last couple torpedo-shaped or bellicoso-shaped Olivas I've had have been a little snug. This one, on the other hand, is absolutely perfect. There's there's a little bit of resistance to the draw. Great smoke volume, lots and lots of it. Resting smoke is fairly light. It's blowing right in my face, but it doesn't have a real pungent aroma to it. It's burning well just to start. It wasn't difficult to light, easy to cut. So, all in all, just the basic stuff is going very well. And, with that said, I'm going to smoke into my Oliva Serie a little bit. I'll be back. We'll look at the first third and, see how she goes. So sit tight. Alright, well, welcome back. I'm plugging right along, getting through the first third of my Oliva Serie Liga Especial. And so far it's kind of middle of the road. Not enjoying it, not really not enjoying it either. Around Christmas time, I went out and I bought, actually it was after Christmas time. Each year around Christmas time, there's a brewing company called Yuengling in this area of Pennsylvania. Excuse me. Well, they put out a variety pack, and it used to be the Yuengling Premium, which has been replaced by Lager Light. There's Lager, Black and Tan, which is a mixture of porter and I think the lager, and straight up lager. It all comes in this variety pack, case of 24, as well as a Lord Chesterfield Ale. And I was just looking through the beer fridge, and I realized that I really haven't put a dent in the Lord Chesterfield Ale. I've never been a big fan of it. It seems overly hoppy for as light as it is. It's got a drying effect across the palate. So I grabbed the bottle, and I started taking a few sips before lighting the cigar, and it's sort of like the primer before the cigar, and it really dried out the palate. And the cigar hasn't become creamy yet, so I've got a fairly dry tasting cigar, and this really hoppy, dry ale taste that I just really wasn't fond of. It just wasn't pairing up well. I ended up actually dumping it and picking up one of the Black and Tans in its place, and it's going much better with the cigar. In my experience, these have been nice creamy cigars, and this one's a little on the dry side, so I went with the Black and Tan, which is it's got a stout component to it, so it's got a sort of a creaminess to it, which is helping. It's complementing the cigar in one of the ways that it's lacking at this point in time, and it's making it much more enjoyable. But I just opened it, and initially it was a little bit of a struggle. The pairing was just way off. But so far, I've got a cigar that's burning a little wavy. The ash has been tightly compacted. It's a little dark. It's got a nice stacking effect to it. It seems fairly strong. Actually, just giving it a pretty firm tap knocked the ash off the end of the cigar. The draw is free. There's a little bit of resistance to it. I'm getting a tremendous amount of smoke. It's nice, thick, dense, just the way I like a cigar to draw. The flavor is a little wishy-washy again because of the bad pairing initially, but I'm just getting a very rich, earthy base and not much else out of it. Now I think I've still got a tinge of allergy side effects hurting my palate a little bit, but again, for the sake of the short ashes, I think I'm in good enough condition. The body is medium to full, and finish is smooth. It's a very smooth cigar, just a touch dry at this point. So there you have it. So sit tight. I'll be back. We'll get started on the second third of the Oliva Serie V Liga Especial. All right. Well, it's time to check in really briefly on the second third of my Oliva Serie V Liga Especial, and it's going very well. The finish that's a little on the dry side, or was a little on the dry side, is starting to come around. It's getting much creamier, and it's still very smooth on the palate. It's becoming more of what I expect out of a V, and less dry as it was. Body's full. There's a nice level of mouthfeel. It's very smooth. This is one of those cigars that it'll creep up on you if you've got an empty stomach and you try smoking this a little early. It has a tendency to creep up on you because of how smooth it is. The draw has been fantastic. Lots of dense smoke, easy to get through the sinuses. Just sort of wafts through the air. It's got a pleasant resting smoke, although it's kind of difficult to pick it up in the open air like this. The the burn rate seems about average. The burn line's a little wavy, but it's not bad. It's a little thick, from what I remember, and the ash is nice and strong. It's fairly dark in color too, and I thought I remembered it being a little lighter. I'm not quite sure what the issue is with this one. Why it's a little bit different. I don't know whether it's because of the size or just because I just bought this today at my local tobacconist. It may be a little wet, so it's smoking a little different from what I'm used to. I'm typically smoking these at roughly 65% relative humidity. This is probably 72. Maybe a little bit more because of it being purchased from a local tobacconist with a higher relative humidity in the walk-in. Again, and I've gone over why that is, numerous times in the past because of the big buffer of the door opening and dry air rushing in and whatnot. So they raise the humidity to try to compensate for that. But all in all, I'm enjoying it. It's getting much better. It was a little on the dry side. Now it's coming around to what I remembered in the V. So sit tight. I'll be back one more time. We'll look at the final third of the V Liga Especial, and we'll wrap this thing up. Well, welcome back. It's about time to wrap up my Oliva Serie V Liga Especial. As you can see, I'm indoors now. We started getting a little bit of cloud cover, a couple of raindrops coming down, and I've got a neighbor. You probably heard the jigsaw during the last video clip, who was doing some work outside, so I figured I'd take it inside, be a little quieter, a little more boring, but a little quieter and a little easier to understand. Now, last third of the Oliva Serie V Liga Especial, the flavors, I'm not getting a whole lot of transition. I'm still getting a very earthy base and a little bit of a spicy component, but it seems to be fairly subtle. Now, my taste buds still seem to be a little out of whack, surprisingly, even though that I feel, congestion-free and whatnot. Being so soon after having a bout with allergies, I'm not totally surprised that the cigar doesn't taste, quite as I remembered it. Aside from that sort of earthy base with like a nice, rich natural tobacco flavor, I'm getting again a little bit of a spiciness, but it seems very minute. The body is full. I'm getting a nice sort of a thick mouthfeel out of it. The finish is smooth. It's a little creamier now than it was before. Again, I'm not quite sure whether that has anything to do with the humidity level it was at versus what I typically keep it at, or what the case may be. Again, this is a cigar that I picked up this afternoon, so it wasn't all that long ago that I purchased this, maybe 2 hours. In terms of the draw, it's spectacular, as I mentioned earlier. There's a little bit of resistance to it, but for the most part, it is very nice. The ash is fairly dark. It's nice and compact. It holds on fairly well. It takes a nice firm tap to knock it off the end of the cigar. The burn rate seems about average. The resting smoke is fairly pleasant from what I can tell. I've only been inside a couple of minutes, and all in all, I'm enjoying it. Again, I think this is the first Bellicoso I've ever had, and it's not quite what I remembered, but I can't really chalk it up to the cigar 100% because as I mentioned, my taste buds are a little off. But all in all, I enjoyed it, and I'll continue buying them because they're a quality product, and I got some enjoyment out of it. So this is my post allergy review, short ashes review of the Oliva Serie V Liga Especial. And until next week, happy smoking.